Good evening everyone, I'm Chris and welcome back to Wednesday's episode of Rift Amps. Delta Blues, the replacement reverb tank is in, the bag, all tested, all sounds fine, so that's the reverb issue sorted. The other customer complaint, if you remember, was that he says he thinks the amp sounds particularly harsh. Now, I've been playing this for the last half an hour or so, now that the reverb is fixed, and to be honest with you, it sounds exactly like a Delta Blues. Nothing wrong with this whatsoever. So I think, well, I don't really know what to do with that because it sounds great. Sounds fine to me. I'd gig it. So yeah, give him a call. He can come and take it away. And the best thing to do in that situation is if the customer then says, no, there's still something not quite right there, he can bring it back in and we can have a listen and we can take it from there. But to be honest with you, it runs and sounds great. So yeah, no issues with the Peavey Delta Blues. Right, mystery box time. I've just had this box turn up from ATB Guitars. They haven't emailed me or called me to let me know that anything was coming, so I have no idea what is in this. But let's get this open and see what treats are inside. And does it actually say anything on the label? 2 times amps. Oh, so what do we have in here? 1, 2 amps. Okay, that's one amplifier. And here's the other amplifier. Can't yet tell what they are. So here's the first one. This appears to be the smaller of the 2 amplifiers, but I literally have no idea what this could be. Black Tolex. Vibrachamp? Maybe? Blackface Vibrachamp? Okay, what do we think? This feels more champy. The closer we get. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Right, Q&A time. So thank you for everyone that sent in comments and questions, either by the comment section on YouTube, through our Facebook page, or even just by email. I had loads of them this week, so I picked 4 that we'll go through. And yeah, sorry if you missed out, but yeah, I can't answer everything. I've got to actually get on with some work. So first one was from Andy Pendlebury. He said, hey up Chris, great video as always. Interesting to see the scale and variety of amp building techniques and approaches. Well, thank you very much. Could you give us a heads up on the types of dummy loads that you use? Yeah, sure. I mean, it's pretty easy. I've got a 2 ohm, a 4 ohm, an 8 ohm and a 16 ohm dummy load. And my rule is that your dummy load needs to be 4 times the power rating of the most powerful amplifier you'll test at that impedance. Reason for that is we always like to double rate. Okay, so a 50 watt amplifier, this is just an example, an amplifier that's rated for 50 watts will at full power, full crank, actually measure closer to 100 watts. Okay, because when we rate the power of an amplifier, we're always measuring its maximum clean power, and then, but obviously when it's overdriving, it's pushing out more power. And some amplifiers will double that, their clean power. Some of them will be 0.7, 0.6, 0.5 times that. But so if it's a 50 watt amplifier, I will assume that its peak power will be 100 watts, and therefore I want to double rate that to make it 200 watts. So look at that again. Let's say we've got 100 watt amp. Well, I need a 400 watt dummy load for that. And that's simply how it works. There's not many 2 ohm amplifiers out there, mainly things like super reverbs, stuff like that. And they are 45, 50 watts, so you want a 200 watt dummy load for those. My personal preference for all the amplifiers I build is they're always 8 ohm. It's just an easy mid-range. No, it's just no reason for that other than that's what I picked. It's the middle of the 4/8/16. And so my dummy load that's on the bench for 8 ohm is actually a 1000 watt load, but it's only 1000 watts when it's heat sinked, and that's just, I mean, that's more than 4 times the, or more than double rating, sorry, but it's I've had that thing for years and years and years. It's from the power supply of an elevator. That's where we got it from. But it's bang on 8 ohms. It's not 8.1 or 7.9. It's bang on 8 ohms, and it's 1000 watts when it's heat sinked. So that thing, I could run into that a Ampeg, 400 watt bass head at full crank all day long. I don't think they're 8 ohm, but you could in theory. And it just will never get hot. So that's what I do. So yeah, whatever the most powerful amplifier is that you're ever going to test at whatever impedance it is, if it's rated for 100 watts, you need 400 watts of dummy load. And that's a very easy and simple way to work out what you need. Yeah, great question. David GX9LH asks, Chris, one for your Q&A. Yes. What do you use for cleaning sockets, pots and jacks, etc.? I'm guessing it's not WD-40. No, it's not. You're right. I use Servicol or equivalent. The one I'm using at the moment is, I think it's made by the same company as Servicol, but it's just the German version. It's easily available on Amazon, places like that. What I will say about this stuff is you use half the amount that you think you should. It's really powerful. So whereas the old switch and contact cleaners, you might soak a pot, with this it's just a simple, very quick squirt, and that's enough. That'll do it. It's really powerful and it works great. One tip I will say is when you are cleaning pots, don't drown them. You might be cleaning the wiper and the track, but also the shaft has a tiny layer of grease on it to help it rotate. And if you wash that off, sometimes they go really, really stiff because they just can't rotate as well anymore. So less is more when it comes to pots and switches and things like that. But yeah, that's what I use, Servicol Super 10 or its German equivalent. Does this thing look strange to you? Well, I'll tell you why. This is a 5F1 Tweed Champ from 1964. And guess how I know it's from 1964? Because in 1964 was the only year where they did these in black Tolex, just before they launched the newer Champ model. So let's have a look around at it. Very, very nice condition. Tiny ding there, but nothing too concerning. Standard chassis layout. Got the on-off on the volume. Fuse. 2 inputs. That's it. So they pack this extremely well. Okay, it's obviously an American voltage one because it's still got the 2-prong cord on. Okay, so they've individually wrapped all the valves as well. And there's the speaker. Fantastic, look at this. So, okay, set you up. About there. Let's quickly buzz the back off and have a look inside. Now, I don't know what these are in for. I haven't called ATB yet to ask the question. It could just be that they're in for a check over before they get sold. And so we give them a sort out. Or it could be that there's an underlying issue. But let's quickly buzz this back off. And we'll have a look inside. Asbestos rear panel. Sorry, asbestos shielding on the rear panel. Let's get you a nice angle on this then. And we shall have a look together. So what do we see? I might be wrong, but I think it's had a replacement power transformer. I might be wrong, but that does look like a replacement unit to me. I'll know when... God, they put so much paper in this. I'll know when I pull the chassis. But what else can we see? So we've got the filter caps have been swapped out for Sprague atoms. 20, 10 and 10. I thought they were 16, 8 and 8. We've got a new cathode bias resistor and bypass cap. But a very strange looking solder joint right here. Doesn't even look like it's attached to the eyelet, does it? Got the original blue molded caps, and it's had the cathode bypass cap for the preamp valve swapped out too. Let's look at the sockets. I might be wrong, and I'll look this up, so don't shout at me in the comments. But I don't remember 5F1s having... I always thought the output transformer leads were cloth covered. I might be wrong. We'll confirm that. But so that might indicate a replacement output transformer too. I don't know. I really should do my research before I open this stuff up, but here's the rectifier socket. So that there up there is the death cap running from the see, they fused the neutral in this. So that's from the neutral to ground. So I suspect we're going to have to... I mean, this amp's going to need a three prong conversion anyway. So that's going to have to go. What else can we see? That's about it. So it's had some work done to it in the past, which, as I always say, is a good thing. It means someone tried to take care of this amp, looked after it, they used it and played it. We just need to make sure it's safe for sale and use here in the UK, etc., etc. Shall we unwrap the valves that came with it? Do you know what? They've done a very good job of wrapping this amplifier up. Have ATB. Nice one, Daffyd. Okay, so in this one, we have got an RCA 5Y3. That's probably the original for this amplifier. Excellent. If that's the rectifier, this next big one will be the output valve, a 6V6. Oh ho ho! A GEC 6V6G, not GT. The G has got the Coke bottle shape. This is not the original for the amplifier, which would have had an RCA. But somebody has obviously replaced this in the past and used, well, they found a new old stock valve, haven't they? Or an old stock, and fitted that. Very cool. And finally, our preamp valve. Which is unfortunately the label has rubbed off, but I think, and please correct me in the comments if you know more than I do, because I'm not quite remembering. I think it's a Mullard, but I might be wrong. I can't remember who else had the white print. I've gone blank. Anyway, really, really cool. So a super rare black Tolex 5F1 Tweed Champ, 1964. We'll be able to date it better once I pull the chassis, but we'll call that quits for the time being. So that's the first amplifier. Let's unbox the second one. Scarlet Amps asks, talking about the Peavey Delta Blues / Classic 30, if he does any work on these, he simply makes the customer sign off that there's absolutely no warranty offered on that repair. Great, brilliant. Unfortunately, can't do that in the UK. We have to stand by all the work we do, and you know, consumer protection and all those things mean that I have to stand by the work that I do. And to be honest with you, from a moral standpoint, I always stand behind the work that I do. So I would never do that. And so this is why I say, or this is why if I know it's an amplifier that's going to cause issues, or that one that's difficult to get parts from, or anything like that, I will just turn it away if I know it's going to be a situation like that. Because as I said in the previous video, the minute I touch an amplifier, I'm married to it. It's the way the law works in the UK. So I have to be really careful. Someone else asked, are there any other amplifiers that I simply won't touch? Not for the same reasons as the Peavey Classic 30 Delta Blues. There are some other brands that I won't touch simply because I'm not an authorised repair centre, which means on some models, if there's any parts that are unique to that model that I can only get from the manufacturer, because I'm not an authorised repair centre, they simply won't sell me the parts, so I can't fix them. And so any of the modern Marshalls, anything post 1990, I would say, Marshall won't sell me any parts. Knobs, switches, transformers, they won't do it. So unless those bits are available on the aftermarket, I often turn those away. Now Marshall, their service department is only a 45-minute drive from me. So any of my local customers who've got a modern Marshall that's got a fault, often it's quicker, easier and cheaper to take it into Marshall themselves. So that's the thing. Another brand that I never always turn away is Carvin. I know Carvin doesn't exist anymore, but those amps were always a nightmare. They're always going wrong. Some of them sounded pretty good, let's be honest, but absolute nightmare to fix and to get going. There was no manufacturer support, so you could never ring up the distributor and ask for schematics and things because they just tell you to F off. But you see, there are other brands that are really, really good. Blackstar, incredible support and aftermarket service, even for independents like me. I'm not a Blackstar authorised repair centre. You know, I've got no skin in their game at all. But if I ring them up and say, can you help me with this? Can I have a schematic for this? Or can I get these parts? Or I'm having an issue with this amplifier and something I don't quite understand. The team up there are just incredible. So as far as aftermarket support goes, Blackstar is up there. So yeah, that's what I'll say about those. What else might I take in? Some of the modern Mesa Boogies, just not interested. What you guys have got to remember is that I'm a manufacturer, I'm a builder of amplifiers, and the repair stuff for me is, you know, it just comes with the game. It's not my sole focus and what I'm set up to do. Whereas there are other places in the UK who are, you know, dedicated repair centres who focus on this stuff all the time. So quite often I say to people, look, just, you know, if there's a better option, go there. You know, you'll get the resolution you need quicker than you will do through me. But yeah, great question. Thank you. And amplifier number 2. This one is the larger of the two. So I'm going to guess we're looking at another Princeton or a Vibrachamp. That's going to be my guess. Do you know what? I've had worse deliveries in the post than this. More black Tolex. I think it's a Champ or a Vibrachamp. Was I right or was I right? Wow. This one, again, such nice condition. No damage to the grill cloth. It's got the logo badge. Chassis number A17372. What do you want to bet this is a 64, 65? What do you want to bet? American again. There's your 2-prong cord. Valves all individually wrapped. Good job. Covers. Oh, valve shields. Brilliant. Okay. Tell you what, they didn't skimp on the packing paper, did they? I'll tell you what though, this one's got a smell to it. It's got a herby smell, we'll say. It's it had some fun in the 60s, I think is a fair way to explain the smell of this amplifier. Really, really cool. I mean, that's cool. So I'm not going to pull the chassis on this one just yet, but we can pull the back panel. And take a look at the chassis from underneath at least. Right, before any of you complain, I'm using the correct Phillips bit that's the right size for this, and I've got it on my lowest clutch setting. So I'm absolutely not going to strip I'm not going to strip the screw. All right. See if we can get some light in there. Okay. What do we see? Power transformer. Can we see the numbers on it? '18th week of 67. Output transformer, 27th week of 66. Got the can cap there, that's original. With the black valve sockets. Right. What I'm going to do, I do want to pull the chassis, but I'm just going to take a photo for the thumbnail of both amplifiers, and then we'll pull the chassis on this and have a good look inside. One moment, please. And finally, Jim Metz 1378 says, on my next batch of 5E3 amp builds, consider offset mounting your speaker instead of in the center. Fixed and done. The issue will be fixed and done. Well, look at this. Well, the answer is that the speaker is already offset. It is, if you see, that's the center line there. You can see it is over to this side, and it is mounted as low as possible. But even then, it's still not, there's still the tightest of clearance there. So this is why you can't use the standard 5E3 chassis, the ones you buy online, the what are they, the silk screened ones. And if you ever did a L6 build, you have to use the short bottle just to make sure that if you can squeeze it in there, you do have the clearance. So how do I do it on the Americana? Well, first thing I do is, you can see the Americana from the side profile is a much taller and deeper cabinet. At the top on a 5E3 cab, you're 8¼ inches. And my Americana at the top is 9¾ right? So that's an 1.5 inches deeper at the top, and it's also taller by, what are they, 16¼ tall, and the Americana is 17�5/8. What that means is that you can squeeze in your Alnico speaker. You've actually got clearance on the Z-axis here, so front to back. And obviously on the Americana, I've got reverb, so I've got an extra preamp valve to squeeze in. And, you know, I always use the IEC socket, so I've got to squeeze that in as well. Otherwise, the rectifier valve will be over there. So it is a tight squeeze, but that's how I do it on the Americana. So back onto the 5E3, I'm going to be using the same chassis as the Americana, but obviously I'm going to drill it and punch it myself. And I'm going to offer it up first and mark exactly the clearances that I need so I can get this to work into this cabinet. And this is what I say to people all the time. You know, you've got to check your clearances in your measurements first. You can't just assume that a huge speaker like this with that massive magnet is actually going to work in your setup. Oh, I forget, I did promise you an update on my race at Snetterton on Saturday. Well, long story short, absolutely terrible. Just garbage. So we, the short story is that we absolutely messed up the chassis setup, and the car was pretty much undrivable for the entire race. Entirely my fault. Entirely my fault. So I've got no one else to blame apart from me. My only defence in this is that we went out in qualifying in the morning. I got 2 laps where I was warming up tyres and things, and then the rain came down. So I didn't really get a feel for the car. I didn't really get to push, you know, the tyres and the brakes and things. So I didn't really know there was an issue with our setup until it came to the race itself. And by that point, it's too late, of course. You know, it's a 45-minute race, and there's no chance really to do the sort of suspension changes needed to salvage a result. So it's a shame. To show how bad it was, I was 3 seconds a lap slower than I was the last time I raced there. Just horrendous. It felt like, the only way I can describe it was that I was driving on a mixture of grease and sand for the entire race. It was just sliding everywhere, but grainy. The front would slide at corner entry. It'd then bite and slide again. The rear was all over the place. It wasn't compliant over the bumps. The only good thing was that the brakes were good and the power from the engine was good, but it was just horrendous. It was a 45-minute slog just to keep the car on the circuit. So I finished 4th on the road, which is no good, but P2 got disqualified. He was dyno checked after the race, had 6 more horsepower than he was allowed, which is the equivalent of about 41-42 kilograms of weight. So he being underweight by that much for the class. So he got disqualified. So I was bumped up to P3. So I did get a trophy, but absolutely did not deserve it. Back to the drawing board. The car's going to go back for another chassis setup and sort out before the next race, which is at Cadwell Park in a month's time. So really looking forward to that. That's the track. I've only driven there once, and I haven't had a trophy there, so minimum goal for Cadwell Park is to get a trophy, but really I want the win. I need to get back on the top step. So yeah, rubbish weekend at Snetterton, but I've got a direction to go to fix it. So there you go. Thanks for asking. And here we go. I've removed the chassis from the cabinet, and the smell of weed has exploded into the workshop. Whew! This is definitely someone enjoyed playing this amplifier. Anyway, it's largely untouched. Still got the death cap, but everything else appears to be original, which is cool. Amazing. So I think it's either a 66 or a 67. I'll have to do more research, but that's where I'm standing at the moment on this particular amplifier. But how cool is that? 2 mid-60s Fender amplifiers turn up unexpected, and we get to have a look at them. How cool is that? So there we go. Right. I need to ring ATB and ask what I'm doing with these. I don't know. I assume we're just doing basic safety checks and make sure they're okay to be sold, but we'll clarify that and take it from there. But yeah, mega cool. Well, that's all we've got time for, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you appreciate and enjoyed our mystery box episode. So please give this video a thumbs up, all your comments and questions down below. Subscribe if you haven't already, hit the notification bell. If you're feeling generous, maybe join the channel, and I shall catch you all at the next one.